The mountain sheep keeps his horns as long as he lives, and on them he writes his autobiography. He records his age, his species, his good years and his bad, and his battles. This episode of the Adventure Series is dedicated to Jack O'Connor, the greatest sheep hunter of all time. This episode of the Adventure Series is brought to you by Cordova Coolers, a cooler innovation. The mountains of Mexico's Baja Peninsula rise up from the blue water in the Sea of Cortez. These are not high-towering peaks like the ones we have traversed in Alaska and British Columbia, but rather rugged, rocky, low-lying mountains protected by the cactus and the extreme desert heat. Here, we will find the elusive desert sheep that I covet and have traveled so far to hunt. We first flew into Cabo San Lucas, the vibrant tourist and fishing community located on the southern end of the peninsula. From there, we drove north along the eastern coastline of the peninsula through small villages and communities until we reached the big coastal city of La Paz. From here, we drove more than an hour further north along the Sea of Cortez to the base camp. It's only a matter of time before that work roads away on this road. Outstanding. Here we met our guides, and I dispersed some technical hunting clothes and checked the zero on my rifle and muzzleloader. Jorge. Aguiar, correct? Yes. Yeah, legends, right here. Okay.
This is a good place to spend some time. It just says hunting. You know, we're not in town, we're out in the country. But as comforting as this place feels, we might be sleeping on the ground. You get out there, you find the sheep. If the sheep are 3 hours of hiking after a 1 hour drive, sometimes you just got to stay there, carry your camp on your back. I'm gonna disperse some gear. You know, one of the things we always found coming down to South America to hunt was a lot of the guides didn't have like really good technical hunting gear. So I did a little shopping at QU. Got a bunch of the good lightweight warm weather gear for them. Now I'm gonna go drop a little Christmas on them. Let's see, so you like large or extra large? We want to make sure that everybody, when we come on these hunts, a lot of these guys, they have really good gear, but they don't have like great gear. And this is technical gear. This is gonna be hot, humid. These are really lightweight pants and shirts that breathe, and they're made for hunting in really warm temperatures. So I'm excited about getting these guys in some great gear, and I'm really excited about getting up in the rocks.
Yeah. Now that we've kind of got settled in and got a game plan for tomorrow, priority number one, we've got to go shoot the muzzleloader and the rifle. I'm not going to hike 2 days into the backcountry and go find the ram of my dreams and miss it because my gun was on. This was no ordinary guide crew. I had worked with my outfitter to assemble the all-time greatest guide staff possible. Combined, they had been a part of taking more than 400 desert rams during their careers.
Oh yeah, that could go boom.
The senior guides would be Jose Aguiar and Jorge Martinez. They had been guiding sheep hunts for the better part of 40 years. And because they are brother-in-laws, they are very close, and together would have been more than enough sheep experience for any hunter. But I wanted the best team ever assembled, so Roberto Aguiar was added. Roberto is Jose's son, and at only 30 years old, he's been guiding sheep hunts since his teens. He is the heir to the Aguiar family sheep hunting legacy, and if Jose is the king, then Roberto is the prince, and his heritage is forever printed on his right shoulder, entrusted to carry on the Aguiar family tradition and pass it along to his son.
Too much energy, they're young. I also get my confidence up. After a first shot splits the bullseye, I know that I'm gonna hit the sheep I shoot with that muzzleloader. The goal is to take sheep with my muzzleloader, but if I don't, I've got one that's just out of range, I won't hesitate. Shoot him with the rifle. There I go. Just more.
Rounding out this all-star team would be Olivario de la O and Andres Ariano, both experienced guides who live and work on the ejido where we would be hunting. These two men know the land and have been hunting sheep here for years. Additionally, Olivario has been entrusted by the biologists in charge of the sheep conservation effort to gather the samples from the ram should we be fortunate enough to take the sheep, known here as Borrego Cimarron. With my guns checked, my gear packed, and confidence in my legendary guide crew, I was itching to get up on the mountain. And I went to bed knowing that the next morning would come early and that the hard work associated with sheep hunting would soon begin.
This segment of the Adventure Series is sponsored by Burris Optics. Find what matters.
The next morning we woke up and loaded our gear into the UTV and SUV that would be used to access the wilderness of the Baja. Because the heat is our biggest adversary, water is our biggest concern.
So we're going to go ahead and dedicate one guy to your team with water.
All right.
And then everybody else will have, 4 or 5. And, I'm not going to look. We're not going to overdo it here. I mean, we've been there, done that. I don't want you killing yourselves. I mean, work all together. If you're too heavy, don't do it.
No, we'll carry as much as we can. If I can carry one more bottle, I will. My big adjustment's going to be temperature and humidity and how fast is that going to sap me out today?
Well, look, we got plenty of guys. I mean, worst case scenario, we can send one guy back empty to base camp, your spike base, which will be the cars for now. You've got 15 cases of water. Let's fire it.
Let's go get a sheep.
Go get them. It'll all work out, man. You've got the A-team with you.
This is where it gets real. Jump off.
Have fun. Thank you.
We traveled several miles along the coast, then turned our vehicles up into the broken hills. Following dry river bottoms and older 2-track roads for what seemed like hours, deep into sheep country.
Well, we've driven quite a ways, and we were on asphalt. We got on the dirt roads, and now we're back up in the back country. We're getting toward the end of this 2-track, but from this vantage point, the guides can see a lot of country. They say that sometimes they find the sheep on what they call the front range.
From here, we started glassing the front range, and after an hour, we spotted our first desert sheep. Borrego Cimarron had been found.
Well, they spotted a sheep. I can actually see it with the naked eye now. 1.5 miles from us up on a ridge top up here. Our first desert bighorn of the trip, man. Is that a ram? You? Okay. We're gonna move up the canyon. We got about a 1.5 mile drive, and then we'll sneak around, look for that ewe. They tell me it's the rut right now. If that's the case, that ewe might be hanging with a ram. If she's hanging with a ram, it's just gotta be the right ram. Time for the packs to get heavy. Caminando means walk. This is where it begins. 4 hours from here. Heat of the day. Heat of the day. He's climbed up out of this bottom, gone this knob, and there's water in the creek bottom all around below us. Not a lot, little pools of it. It was damp and cool. We saw the ewes with lambs. About 600 yards that way, just above this. They've been in here getting water. Went up over the top the other side. This is surrounded by sheep country. We just gotta wait and glass this for a while. When you find water, you typically find animals. We're in the desert, so that's probably magnified a bit. This looks good.
This segment of the Adventure Series is sponsored by Bergara Rifles. Our barrels make the difference.
We've been up here for about 2 hours glassing and glassing. Haven't seen anything in here yet, except some ewes and lambs, but we're gonna go down, get in the rigs at the bottom and go about 4 or 5 more miles to the west. We're gonna keep working our way into some deeper back country. These guys know what they're doing, they're legends. If they say the sheep aren't here right now, they're not here right now. So I'm gonna hurry up and catch up to them. Waiting for the rest of the crew to come back down off the mountain. They were glassing on another peak and they're working their way down right now. They're saying we're just gonna walk a ways up the bottom, glass up onto the hills. They told me just to bring a gun, so that's simple enough. I'll leave a heavy pack behind anytime I can.
Dry riverbeds provide the perfect travel corridors. With desert sheep spotted a few miles ahead of us, we quietly advanced up the sandy river bottom under the cover of the deep cut and glassed for the sheep and looked over even more promising sheep country.
A lot of sheep tracks in the creek bottom, and they're pretty fresh within the last day or so. They're all going up into this box canyon. The back wall, not even a sheep can climb it, so we know there's sheep in here somewhere. It's midday heat, so they're all laying down sleeping, but they're anytime now they're gonna start popping up, especially as the sun drops below the horizon. Pop, pop, pop. They'd be like popcorn popping up everywhere. We just gotta hope that there's a big ram in here.
It's hot out here. I trained in Montana for this, which is like 20 degrees. This is like 90. I'm not complaining, don't get me wrong, it's just different. Country's amazing. Coolest part is to be out here with this sort of talent and this sort of experience is wildly humbling to me. I mean, these guys are like the Jedis of the sheep world.
After glassing for 2 more hours and not finding any rams, we knew the day was coming to a close. So we hiked back to the vehicles and drove a few miles to a dry river bottom where we would make camp for the night, but still be within glassing distance of the front range. This was a simple camp. Tarps on the ground and sleeping bags with backpacks for pillows. I knew the next day we would be moving on, and I fell asleep next to the warmth of the campfire under a canopy of stars. The next morning the sky was clear and temperatures were cool and comfortable, but the temperature rose higher and higher with every minute that the sun got higher in the sky.
We got up this morning, perfect sunrise, clear day. We're wrapping up our real simple camp here. We're pretty fired up. The guides are excited about the day. We're gonna head to the northeast. They think that we're gonna find some more sheep up there. There's nothing quite like hunting sheep on the Baja Peninsula.
We broke camp and drove several miles further east up the Front Range. There was a specific place that they wanted to glass for sheep. We thought that we could drive all the way there. But the unforgiving desert had other plans.
Oh, we're trying to get the day started, and we're coming down this old, real washed out old 2-track, and we got a big washout here on the creek, and we're trying to find right now, the guys are all, everybody's spreading out, going upstream, downstream. We're trying to find a good crossing.
It looks like the river just diverted down the road. Got way too much obstacle in places like this where we just can't get through. Not gonna happen. Probably won't go that far before we set up and glass it, but we've been told to leave the sleeping bags, leave everything, just take water, Gatorade, basic hunting essentials, so that's what we're gonna do. 40 years of hunting here. They're talking about the best way to approach the face. We've walked a couple miles across open desert here, and they just want to make sure that we find these sheep that are supposed to be here. They've seen them here, but nobody's been in here this year. A lot of experience talking up there.
This segment of the Adventure Series is brought to you by Cordova Coolers, a cooler innovation.
The sun just takes it out of you. We just walked across the desert floor, probably 2.5 miles, maybe more. We've positioned ourselves perfectly between two areas where there could be sheep plus this front. We're gonna sit in the shade and glass for a while, drink some water. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.
After glassing for several hours, the sun made its way to our side of the rock and our shade was gone. This is the strategy. Because you cannot sit in the hot sun and glass for long, and you need to glass all day because the sheep are moving during the middle of the day as the sun robs them of their shade too. When they move to find shade is when you spot them. By this time, the guides had picked the area apart and determined that we needed to relocate once again. So we hiked back to the vehicles and drove all the way out of the backcountry to the coast and followed the roads along the beautiful Sea of Cortez to base camp.
Well, it's been a long day. Long 2 days. We just got back to base camp. Gonna resupply, recharge, be back at it again early tomorrow morning. Oh, what a country.
When the sun rises in the Baja, so does the temperature. The forecast was for even hotter temperatures. By 10 a.m., it was more than 90 degrees and the sun was far from its apex in the sky. I decided to book this sheep hunt in March, the warmest month for sheep hunting in the Mexico desert. While most hunters enjoy the comfortable temperatures of December through February, I had decided on the last hunt of the year so that I could assemble this guide crew after all of their other hunts had been finished. And every day, and every step in the hot sun made me question this decision.
The guys are filling up their packs with all the gear they need as well as all the water they can carry. I mean, this is going to be a long, hot day, lots of climbing, super high temperatures. We're going to drink a lot of water. When the water stops, we stop. So they're packing as much of it in their packs as they possibly can. I've got as much as I can carry. We're going to make our way to sheep country.
We drove deep into another area of the ejido, with the plan being to hike several hours to a valley with our camps on our backs. My Alaska Frontier gear pack was stuffed to the top with sleeping bag, pad, food, and water. Bare essentials only. No luxuries, just the things we needed to survive.
This is the part that nobody likes, but if you want to hunt sheep, you got to be prepared to go out and sweat and bleed for them a little bit. We're going to spend all day getting back there. When we get back there, God willing, it'll all be worth it. This will be a hard hunt. This heat doesn't take long to get to you.
As far as the temperatures go, like, man, we're pounding waters. It's funny because we're not gauging water by the amount of bottles we're drinking or anything of that sort. We're literally gauging it by the gallon per day.
About halfway to our intended camp, it was decided that Jorge, Olivario, and Andreas would stay there and glass for sheep while we advanced. The plan was for them to catch up to us later in the day. We were going to a valley where Jose and Roberto had found rams just a few weeks earlier. And shortly after parting ways, Jose and I found sheep.
Oh, we're going to work our way up this spine, up to the top, and then we can go up over the top. We're in sheep country. Since we came out of the river bottom down there, we've been just nothing but in the sheep. This is as good as it gets right here.
Backpack hunting in the Baja has its challenges. The loose rocky ground that tests your ankles, the high desert heat that saps your strength, and the cholla cactus that sometimes jumps up and bites you. And everything is sharp.
God.
By the end of the day, we had made it to our camp, and just before dark, the guide spotted a big ram on the far ridge. Too far to chase before dark, but within striking distance when the sun came up. This segment of the Adventure Series is sponsored by Super Hides by Marathon Seat Covers. At first light, we were all up glassing for the ram. At first, a small sicklehorn ram was spotted just below camp, and while everyone put forth a tremendous effort, it was not to be. Using our iPhone and phone scope paired with our spotting scope, we filmed and looked over other ewes and small rams, but found no mature rams.
I went out there to the point where they're at, and they've got the ram across from them, but it's not the same one as last night. I turn it down. It's 3/4 curl. Stops right here with tips. He's not broomed, just young. I'm gonna get a bottle of water and hydrate, head back out there.
As the day grew hot, the guides realized that we had a problem.
So we have not enough water right now. So we gotta stay here all day for sure. all this area.
We'll just conserve water. If we have to, we can send somebody out to go resupply.
Dile, por ejemplo, si miramos Moreno y tenemos que quedarnos un día más o dos, podemos ir hasta el pueblo, traer el carro y traer agua para acá.
He say maybe we find the sheep somewhere, or say we gotta make a plan for 2 or 3 guys going to the town for buy
More
more water.
Yeah.
And we stay here.
Yeah.
And we don't see nothing. Later we need to go to the track and go.
We can meet the water somewhere, with the radios, meet the water. I agree.
Okay.
This is one of those situations where you don't know what's going to happen. Water is everything. We miscalculated how much we were going to drink collectively as a group. And we couldn't carry enough for us to stay out here for an extended period of time.
With water running low, Olivario and Andres were sent out to resupply us with bottled water while we stayed there and continued to glass and hunt. As they made their way down the ridge away from our vantage point, we turned our focus back to the task of finding sheep. But after a few hours, a radio call came in that Olivario had been injured on his hike out. The radio transmission was broken and hard to understand. But with a fellow hunter now our primary concern, we packed up our camp and headed down to find our fallen guide and get him off of the mountain and back to base camp. The sheep could wait. We safely navigated the mountains, found Olivario, and determined that his injury was more serious to his boot than his foot. Something we would have known with a clear radio transmission. So we continued on to the base camp, where we resupplied and made a plan to return to the other side of that same mountain the next day. This segment is sponsored by Caldwell Shooting Supplies. Innovation defined, accuracy anywhere.
We're hitting a new area today. We went back in last night so that we could, get Olivario taken care of, resupply with water, Gatorades, food, everything we need to stay out for a few days. They decided we're going to come hunt another area, and it's huge, big country. We haven't seen this before. These are big mountains, completely different from where we've been hunting. So get in the glass, start looking. Everybody's working hard this morning. They want to get this hunt done just like me. Got up here on the hill, looking all over. We found a young ram way over here, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, there's another ram up there by this white rock." I looked in the spy scope. I was already at full magnification. I looked over, and all I saw was backs. This thing's a beast. It's a big ram. This is what we've been looking for. This is what we've been patiently waiting for.
With only a few days left on my scheduled sheep hunt, I decided to leave my beloved CVA muzzleloader behind and take my reliable and extremely accurate Bergara custom rifle on this stock. This ram was big and in a place where I might not get within muzzleloader range. I wanted to be sure that all of our hard work paid off, and I knew that the 308, topped with the Burris scope and custom turret, would give me the ability to shoot the extended distance that I could be presented with.
Okay.
So with a full pack and my trusty Bergara rifle, I joined my guides on the long hike to the top of the mountain.
The ram's walking left. He's still about 2 miles away from us and 1,500 feet above us. But the guys are watching him walk toward where we're going.
The small ram forced us to alter our course. We would now have to add more than a mile to our already long hike in the hot desert sun to circumvent this sheep as we closed the distance on the larger ram.
Last time we saw the ram, he was up on the top bench. He had laid down. We left 2 spotters behind. We got about halfway up to where we're at now, which is about two-thirds of the way to the sheep. And the radio call came in that the ram walked out of sight, went back away from us. The guys can't see it. Now we're blind. Watching the ram right up there about 600 yards from where we're at now. He came this way, which would have set up a shot from here. But about 2 hours into our hike, he turned around and he went back the other direction.
Just below the summit and during the heat of the day, we took refuge in the cool shade of a cave where we hydrated and ate lunch. After a few hours of rest, we pushed on toward the top of the mountain. Our goal was to come out above the ram and spot him before he saw us first. The scene from the top of the mountain was breathtaking, a view that can only be seen and appreciated by leaving the comforts of home and climbing into sheep country. I enjoyed seeing the rugged mountains reaching out to the vast and beautiful blue Sea of Cortez and let the light mountain breeze cool my face. This state of nirvana was short-lived, however. It was now time to find this ram that had lured us to this rugged and beautiful place. This segment of the Adventure Series is sponsored by CVA Muzzleloaders. It's just a better gun. After climbing to the top of the mountain, we now had to find the ram. Roberto radioed down to Andreas and confirmed that they had not seen the ram in hours. He could be anywhere. So I loaded my rifle and shouldered my pack. I knew what was next, a slow and methodical hunt where we carefully worked the rim, glassing down on the ram.
They're peeking over the edge. This ram could be right underneath us.
And that's when Jose and Jorge found his tracks up on top. This changed the game. We were now tracking a ram in the heavy cover of the plateau on top of the mountain, on the same level as the sheep. I followed, rifle at the ready, watching my legendary guides track this old ram.
They're actually tracking this ram. He came up on top, and they're following his tracks. We're gonna come out right on top of it. This is a treat to watch. These guys are the most experienced sheep guides I've ever met. They have to figure out what this ram's done. We get tracks in the dirt, they're tracking him, they're out thinking him, where's he going, what's he gonna do? This is a privilege to watch and be a part of.
And as we got to the end of the plateau, it all happened fast.
Right there, up there, down there.
The big ram had spotted us and burst from cover, across the next ravine. He was moving fast in an attempt to escape.
Stos. Oh, there he is. He's up on the hill. I got him. I don't even know how far that is. Fair in the hole. Wow. Just be patient. No? No, he's not hit.
While I know everyone misses at some point, missing that ram burned deep. So many people had worked so hard to give me that opportunity that I felt like I had let everyone down. And to guess the distance and be wrong was a critical error on my part.
I guessed the distance at like 500 yards. That's a monster ram. I'm guessing that it was like at 500 yards. We don't have a rangefinder. I thought maybe I got him with that shot because he rocked back, but he went up that other slope clean. I thought we had a rangefinder when I came out this morning. I found out early today that we didn't have one, and this is why you've got to have a rangefinder. I guessed that at 500 yards. No problema.
We made camp right there at the end of the plateau, in the heart of sheep country with a stunning view of the sunset, and I tried to let the stars take away my heartache. But with the dawn of a new day came new opportunities, and we were all up glassing at the break of dawn. This segment of the Adventure Series is brought to you by Cordova Coolers, a cooler innovation. If you'd like to book your own guided big game hunting adventure, give my office a call. I will personally take your calls, answer your questions, and help you book the hunting or fishing trip of a lifetime.
We got a real break this morning. Roberto spotted this ram over here going down a ridge. And then we put the spot and scope on it, and he and Jose looked, they confirmed the same ram as yesterday. There's like 1,000,000 pounds lifted off of my chest right now. If we go after that ram, there's nothing between us and him but like the worst, nastiest vertical descent and then incline again.
The plan was to descend down the mountain, back to the rigs where we would rendezvous with Andres and Olivario, and drive to a place where we could access the ram. I felt like it was a second chance and I had to redeem myself. I could feel a renewed energy as we made our way back to the trucks. I had a spring in my step, and we were given a sign of good fortune when we found a big old ram's skull and horns on the path, a sign of good things to come.
Look at that. That's a desert sheep there.
Yeah.
The one we're hunting, big like that. Oh, it's grande, see?
Okay.
After reaching the vehicles, we drove the narrow river bottoms to within a mile of the last place we had spotted the ram. It was decided that Roberto, Olivario, and Andreas would go up the left side of the mountain and look for the ram. while I would go with Jose and Jorge up the right drainage. The guides had radios. Whoever found the ram first would call the other. We hiked about another mile up the right fork and set up our spotting scopes and started glassing.
Big owl.
You could feel that the ram was there. He was somewhere on the mountain, and we just had to find him. And with about 2 hours left in the day, the radio call came in that Roberto had spotted the big ram. By this time, we had hiked over 20 miles in 2 days in the extreme desert heat and rough terrain.
They found the ram on the other side of the mountain. We gotta go. They say rapido.
My feet were on fire. I was tired and nearing exhaustion. But on a sheep hunt, you find an extra gear. You use your reserve tank, and you find a way.
We're dumping everything that isn't necessary. My backpack, everything. I'm just gonna pull my cartridges out because I didn't trust them in the belt loops. And leaving all this stuff here.
We covered the 2 miles between us and Roberto in near record time. There was no time to waste, as the ram knew that we were there and he could bolt at any time.
I'm good. To the right, I see him running. I can't see him now.
He's behind the bush. Straight up from your first shot behind the bush.
I thought it whacked him. He's wounded.
Oh, there, I see him. He's to the right of the bush. To the right of the bush. Right of the bush above the first bush you shot.
You got it.
Relax. Congratulations, my friend.
That's a desert bighorn sheep, y'all.
I feel very happy right now.
Cimarron. De Borrego. Yeah. This has been a phenomenal hunt, highs and lows, and to come out successful in the end is second only to the overall experience. This is what the Adventure Series is all about. Coming out here into wild places, meeting new friends, and hunting animals that are as wild and free as you could imagine. And I feel privileged to have come up here on the mountain this week, and I hope that you all join us next week.
To me, the apex of hunting is that which is done at the tops of the mountains for the monarchs of the mountaintops. This ram is special to me in so many ways, and I look forward to the day that he graces my office walls and reminds me of the highs and the lows of this sheep hunt. And while we headed home, it was only to heal up and get our gear ready for another hunt. Time was closing fast on our departure date for Alaska, because it's almost time for spring brown bear season to open on the Alaskan Peninsula.